Now it's time to bring in our next guest, Anthony Saccaro, lawyer and founder and president of Providence Financial and Insurance Services in Woodland Hills, California. Anthony, thanks for joining us today.
Dave, glad to be back.
So, Anthony, as our viewers know, you are a good friend of the income generation. You're one of my closest friends, and we talk a lot. So, but one thing I haven't asked you in our conversations is, are you seeing more defined benefit pension plans with your clientele in California than maybe I'm seeing in Connecticut or Florida? Or is it still slim pickings these days with the old-fashioned defined benefit plans?
Yeah, good question. We actually have a lot of clients that still are under a defined benefit pension plan type of program because we've got CalPERS here. I have a lot of teachers as clients. CalPERS, as you probably know, is the largest funder of pensions in the country. And with all the teachers that we have, we deal with that a lot. So it is very common in our neck of the woods.
Okay. So a lot of them now, and maybe not CalPERS per se, because they're not, I assume they don't offer a lump sum option, correct?
Correct. That's right.
So when you do come across somebody that maybe works for a private company that's given a lump sum option as well as annuity options, how do you get them to make that decision between lump sum and taking the pension income itself?
Yeah, we've had a number of companies around here that have done exactly that. One of the local companies, Farmers, has offered buyouts, and we have a number of clients from there. What we do is we look at the entire situation from a holistic standpoint and discuss all the pros and cons. There's usually not a right or wrong answer. If someone doesn't need the income, then a buyout option oftentimes makes sense. If someone actually needs the income, they need every penny they can get, and they want to make sure that they don't outlive their money, then oftentimes taking the income makes sense. So it's really just a holistic approach and what's best for that particular person.
Okay, fair enough. So let's pivot to 401ks because we've probably come across, you and I both, far more people that have 401ks than traditional pensions. So, in the minute or so we have left in the segment, tell our income generation viewers, please, what you see are some of those common mistakes that investors make, employees make, when choosing and allocating and deciding how much to put in their 401k.
Well, I think one of the most common mistake by far is that 45% of people across America don't even participate in a 401k. And I think that's nuts. I had someone recently ask me, my 401k is offering me, 3% if I put in 3%. They're offering to match. Do you think that's a good idea? No, I think it's a horrible idea to double your money the moment you put it. It doesn't make sense. But if you're in a matching plan, put into it at least what they're going to match. That is free money. So that's the biggest mistake that I see them make. The second biggest mistake is just blindly checking the box and choosing some investments based on the last 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and so on without doing any more research on that and never readjusting it.
Okay. So we're going to take a commercial break. When we get back, Anthony, we're going to break down those two areas in terms of not putting enough in and then also checking off the box with their allocation. So stay with us if you will, please. And you stay with us too. We'll be right back here in a moment on the Income Generation. I'm David Scranton, and we'll be right back. Now it's time to welcome back our good friend, Anthony Saccaro, lawyer, founder and president of Providence Financial Insurance Services in, let's just call it LA, California. Anthony, thanks for sticking around.
Absolutely. Love being here.
So you said it again, but I always hear you say that the two biggest mistakes people make with 401ks is not putting enough in, but also just checking off the box without thinking about their allocation. Let's explore the first one first. Not putting enough money into the 401k. What should they do?
Well, they should put enough money in. I mean, they should contribute as much as they can to the 401k. They should start early. If they're going to get a match, the general rule of thumb is to at least contribute what your match is going to be. That's just free money. Even if your employer contributes only 50%, meaning that if you put in $1, they put in 50 cents, put in that dollar and do it consistently, do it persistently, don't change it, don't borrow from it. And over time, the effect of compounding will build that up to a decent amount by the time you retire. So you'll have it available to you then.
And the reality is even the reduction in your take-home pay that you feel isn't as great as you think it is because it's all pre-tax money. So for every dollar that goes in the plan, it might only cost you 65 or 70 cents of take-home pay. So it's not as hard as you think. So what if I get a pay raise? What if I get a pay raise? this is great. I get more money. I can go and I could buy a new car. I could help stimulate the economy. The president would love that. What should I do if I get a pay raise?
Well, you always want to live below your means no matter what. That's for sure. And I think you should at least get 2 or 3 pay raises before you ever even start to increase your lifestyle at all. You want to make sure you stay debt free. You want to make sure that you contribute some of that to savings for the future. If you're going to save for a car, take some of that, put it in a savings account so you can pay cash for a car down the road so you don't have to finance it. But saving the money is definitely what you need to do. Now, after a couple pay raises, sure, I think you can afford to go out and increase your lifestyle a little bit, but do not live beyond your means, please.
How about the allocations? The mistakes people make with their allocations. You mentioned that before. What are 2 of the biggest that you see, and what should people watch out for?
Well, certainly the biggest mistake that people make is that they look at what's happened over the past 10 years or really 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. All they do is look at the past history and then they check the box accordingly. Well, you know, the past history doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what's going to happen in the future. It depends what decade you're looking at. The last decade, the market did 10% a year, roughly per year. The previous decade, the market was down over 5%. So it depends what you look at. I think you need to do a little more analysis. Don't just check a box. You need to know what's in there, why you're investing. If you don't know why you're checking that box, you shouldn't be checking the box. I think that's a fact that you actually have to do. And the second mistake is don't just check it and leave it there. You want to make sure that you rebalance it. Look at it every 6 months or every year to make sure it's still appropriate.
Make sure the allocation is still appropriate for your needs and your goals. And also the fact that it becomes unbalanced. If one fund grows more than another, you might think you have half your money in that fund. Heck, after time, you might have 3/4. So, Anthony, we need to take another commercial break. If you want to stay with us, please, for just one more moment, we'd love to have you back here. And you stay with us, too. We'll be back here in a moment with Anthony Saccaro right here on The Income Generation. We'll be right back. Now let's bring in one more time our good friend, Anthony Saccaro, president of Providence Financial Insurance Services in Los Angeles, California. Anthony, you know, right before the break, you talked about those 2 mistakes, people not putting enough in, but also people putting in, just checking off the box, having an allocation, and then not changing that allocation as time goes on. But also, isn't it true that the 401k isn't standalone, that people need to look at that also in the light of their other retirement investments that hopefully they have outside of the company?
Oh, you're 100% correct. And if we throw on to the list of mistakes that I see that are the most common, that's another one, is that people putting too much into the 401k up front and overfunding it so that when they get to retirement, they've got a 401k and nothing else. They've got retirement plans and then nothing else. What that's going to do is that's going to make retirement very expensive, because now if you want to buy a car for, $30,000, you've got to take $40,000 out to pay $10,000 of tax, have $30,000 left. If you want to take a vacation for $10,000, you've got to take $15,000 out, pay $5,000 of tax. So it's very expensive. My happiest clients are clients that have some retirement money and some non-retirement money so that they can control their level of income and take money that they need for lump sums and save a ton of taxes. That's what I would recommend. Don't overfund your 401k. Big mistake. Okay,
so what other types of accounts do you recommend that people consider when they're planning for retirement and all they have at work is the 401k?
So I think the next best option, once you've put as much as you need to put into your 401k to match, I would start looking at Roth IRAs. A Roth IRA, or if you're fortunate enough to be with a company that offers you a Roth 401k option, when you put money in, you pay tax on it now, but it's going to grow tax-free for the rest of your life. And I promise you that you're really not going to feel the pinch now as much as you're going to feel the pain later down the road if you don't do it. A Roth 401k or 401k is certainly a phenomenal way to go.
And now I max out my 401k, I max out my Roth IRA, I'm full speed ahead, 45 seconds left. What should I do?
Well, then if you've maxed out your 401k, you've maxed out your Roth IRA, then what I'm going to be looking at is your taxable brokerage account with investments that are tax efficient. If you're 20 or 30 years old, investments that have capital gains so you can take advantage of the capital gains. If you're a little bit older, investments that maybe provide income. But first, max out your Roth, your 401k, your Roth, and then taxable accounts after that, invested tax efficiently.
Yep. And you retire, most people roll that money out of the 401k so that you're not limited to mutual funds, correct?
That's exactly right. You don't want to be limited, and 401ks are much more expensive than IRAs, and rolling your money into an IRA just makes sense almost all the time.
Almost all the time. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, as usual. You stick around, too. We'll be right back here in a moment, right on the Income Generation.